Welcome to the first video in stage 2. So this is clearing the cobwebs and freedom to move. So you're going to need a couple of props for this video. So you need either a half dome or a rolled up towel, and you will also need a strap, so like a yoga strap or a dressing gown belt or something that you can use for that. Okay, so go and grab yourself those and then meet me back on the... Okay, so our first exercise is called the calf stretch. So this is where you're going to need your half dome or your rolled up towel. Pop it down onto the floor, and then you're going to have the ball of one foot on the top of the towel or the dome, and it's really important that the heel is all the way down onto the floor. Then we're going to step the other leg to about hip width apart, and we want to stand up tall. So if it's making you feel like you're falling backwards, then let that standing leg come a little bit further back. Want to be able to have your weight through the heel of the leg that's on the dome, and then standing up tall there. So I'm going to turn face to front. So, calf stretch. So there's a few things I want you to do to make sure that you're in really good alignment here. So if you have a look at your feet, try and have the outside edges of your feet straight, because quite often they'll kind of turn out a little bit. So outside edges of the feet are straight. Keep your weight backed up through your heels, and make sure that you aren't leaning forward. So trying to stand up nice and tall. Can you find that neutral pelvis here, and can you have your ribs relaxed and down? You're trying to keep sneaking this free leg forwards a little bit, but that will depend on how much tension and tightness you have through your calf. So if it makes you feel like you're going to fall over, just go to where you feel that you can hold with really good alignment. So while we're here stretching, I'm going to tell you why we're doing this. So quite often we have a lot of tension through the back of the leg, particularly in the calves. And it's because we tend to wear shoes with like a positive heel, so our heel is always elevated above our toe. And even if you wear sensible shoes or flat shoes, if you look, there's always a little bit of difference between the heel and the toe. And even in trainers, the heel on trainers is getting higher and higher, so that differential between the heel and the toe is ever getting larger. And what that does over time is it shortens the muscles in the back of the leg. It shortens those calf muscles, because your body isn't going to maintain long muscles if it's not using them. And if you're holding your muscles at a shorter position the whole time, then your body is going to adapt to that. Your body adapts to whatever you do with it most. Okay, and that's why we're doing this. So we're trying to restore some length through the calf, because what happens is when the calf is short and tight, also then the hamstrings are short and tight, and when the hamstrings and the calves are short and tight, it creates that tucked pelvis position. And if your pelvis is tucked because of your short tight back of the leg, your pelvic floor is also short and tight. Everything is connected. So by releasing the calves, we are also releasing the pelvic floor, yeah, and creating that length again that we naturally should have here. So it feels great because we're releasing the calves, but just know it's doing so much more than that. Let's do the same on the other side. Again, it's really important to make sure that your heel is down on the floor. So ball of the foot to the top of the towel or the dome, heel down on the floor, and it might be different one side to the other. Have a look at the outside edges of your feet and get those straight. Making sure that you're standing up nice and tall. Check the ribs. Check the pelvis, and just make sure that you aren't holding tension through the rest of your body. So check your jaw, check your shoulders, arms. Now the sneaky place that we hold a lot of tension is through the front of our thighs. So those quads we use them to hold ourselves up an awful lot. So see if you can relax your quads here and let those kneecaps relax. And if you can't yet, don't worry, it will come with time. But just being aware of all of the pieces together. Now, when you initially get into the calf stretch position, depending on what you've been doing, it might feel really intense. But then after 30 seconds or a minute or so, it might feel like the calf has started to release a little bit, so it feels a little bit easier. When you get to that point, you can, if you wish, see if you can sneak your foot a little bit further forwards. If it's too much for you, you can always bring it back. But we're always working on this and trying to get that free leg to come forwards. And that will be really important to us as we start to look at walking and correct walking technique a little bit later on. Because this is your stride length. Being able to keep your back heel down while stepping your front leg forwards is essential for everyday walking. But don't worry about that just now. So just taking some deep breaths again, just making sure everything is as relaxed as possible. And you want to spend some time here. You don't want to be rushing through this. And quite often when I teach classes, we go through it but quite quickly because obviously it's a class. But when you're doing this for yourself, you can spend as long as you like here. And I always like to go and do a couple of times on each side, because the first time you stretch it, it's quite intense, and then it releases a little bit. So let's go back to the first side again. Go and heel down, making sure that you're in good alignment. So noticing if there's a tendency to hang off one hip, and try and make yourself as aligned as possible. Checking in for tension, ribs, pelvis, just kind of making sure all of the pieces are in place. And then just take some deep breaths. You're trying to be as relaxed as you can here. Can you let those quads go? Can you let your kneecaps relax? Good. Okay, let's try the other side. So, if you do nothing else, try and do the calf stretch every day. I used to before I had a half dome, I used to use the rolled up towel, and I used to have one in my bathroom by my sink, so that every day when I was brushing my teeth, I could be calf stretching, multitasking, stack your line. But I could do the calf stretch whilst I was cleaning my teeth, and obviously if I'm in there twice a day, I'm stretching my calves at the same time. So that's a really good thing to do. You can do it while you're ironing, you can do it whilst you're chopping your veg, drying your hair, just whenever you can fit it into your day. Because that's the great thing about a lot of these exercises that we're going to do, is you don't have to actually do a full workout session. You can just add little exercises into your day, and you will find that that will make a huge difference to you. Okay, so we're going to go to a double calf stretch now. I'll turn sideways on again so that you can see. Now this time you're going to have both feet up towards the top of the dome or top of the towel, but you need to hinge forwards to stop you from falling over. So ball up towards the top of the dome, heels down on the floor, and then keeping a flat back, you're going to hinge from the hip, so folding at the hip to lean forwards, and you can rest your hands on your thighs, that's absolutely fine. And we want to keep a flat back here, so you're not rounding, and you don't want to be like arching your back, you don't want to be letting the ribs go, so the ribs are staying in, and we're trying to keep a neutral spine. So you can see that my bottom is kind of further back than my heels, so I haven't got a vertical leg. I've allowed myself to go back, to back my hips up. And then again, have a think about, are you holding tension in your quads, in the front of your thighs? Can you let your thighs relax? Can you tense and release your thighs here? What's happened to your feet? Have they turned out? Can you get your outside edges of your feet straight here too? So this is your double calf stretch. If it's too much with the dome to begin with, you can just do it on the floor, and you will still get that calf stretch, backing your hips up, and you can do it here if the double on the dome is too much for you. Okay, coming out of that, just give your legs a little bit of a shake out. So we're already starting to increase the length down the back of the body, which is going to allow our pelvis to find a more neutral position, which will allow our pelvic floor to get where it needs to be, rather than being pulled right underneath and too tight. So we're going to get rid of the half dome now. Make sure that you're not going to fall over it, and we're going to stretch out the top of your foot. So turn in. Top of the foot is going to come down onto the floor. Kind of turn so you can see me properly. So I'm not on my toes. I'm on the knuckle at the base of the toe. Now to begin with, that might be too difficult for you. You might actually be on your toes. That's okay. You are where you are to begin with, but eventually you want to try and get onto the knuckles of the toes. Then we have to make sure that we're not leaning forwards, because that takes away from the stretch and the release. We want to be standing up nice and tall, and we want to make sure those ribs are down so that we've not got the ribs lifted. The leg that we're stretching needs to be back behind the front leg, because if they're can't really see, I'm not in a great angle there, but if the leg is in front or level, you're not really getting a stretch. It needs to be behind, so if I stand a bit better so you can see that leg is actually behind this front leg. And as you get better with this, as you get more release with this, you can take that leg further and further back. Let's do the same on the other side. Checking with your ribs, making sure you're not leaning forwards, standing up nice and tall. So this is stretching out the top of the foot, it's stretching out the ankle. And again, it's all about mobilising. The whole point of this next section is to mobilise, to give our body the ability to be able to move all of its parts. Because only when we can move everything, will everything be able to do the job that it's designed to do. So, our feet play a huge, huge role, and when we get to the foot section, you will see that. But it's so important that our feet are as mobile as we can possibly get them to be. Okay. Couple more breaths here. Again, just checking in for tension, making sure that you aren't holding through your jaw, your shoulders, or gripping anywhere. And release. Okay, so when you're doing the top of the foot stretch, if you feel that it's really cramping, you need to keep coming out of it, that's absolutely fine. And you just do for as long as you can. The other things to watch for when you're doing the top of the foot stretch is that you aren't shifting your hips to one side to kind of get away from the stretch. You always want to try and keep that really good alignment there. You can't really see, but watch that your foot isn't kind of rolling out to the side as well. So kind of, you'll have to feel for that one, because that's another way that your body gets around the tension, is to just kind of roll away from it. So you want to have your foot fairly straight, and it's much better to do it on a soft surface, so on your mat or on carpet rather than on the floor. Okay, so now we're coming down onto the mat and we're going to start with our pelvic tilt. The reason that we're doing the pelvic tilt is to try and mobilise the pelvis. It's really important that we be able to move all of our body parts independently. So lay yourself down on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And then just take a moment for your spine to settle here. So allow the back of your rib cage to be heavy, allow the back of your pelvis to be heavy. Now don't forget, if you need something under your head to bolster you up a little bit, then absolutely grab that. And just take some deep breaths here and just allow your spine to settle into the mat. And then we're going to bring our arms down by our sides. And we're going to start with that gentle pelvic tilt. So take a breath in, and as you exhale, you're tilting your pelvis towards you. As you inhale, you're going to tilt your pelvis away. So we're just starting to gently rock the pelvis forwards and backwards. And you're noticing how free that movement feels. You're noticing if your whole body has to move, so is everything kind of going? Or can you isolate and just tilt your pelvis forwards and backwards? It's really nice because it gives the lower back a little bit of a massage into the floor as well. And then now think about having a marble on one hip bone, and you're going to try and roll it across to the other side. So it's a very gentle tilt of your pelvis from side to side. Not a huge movement. Might not see very much from the outside, but we've gone forwards and backwards, and now we're going side to side. And then we're going to take that into a circle. So you're going to tilt your pelvis towards you, tilt it to one side, down towards your toes, to the other side, and then back towards you. So just going around in a little circle, noticing which areas again feel like they're moving and which areas don't, and then reverse and go the other way. Is it easier in one direction than the other? Good. And then just pause in when you come back there. So from here we're going to bring our feet and knees together. We're going to take our arms out to the side. Now traditionally you'll have your palms facing down, but I like palms to face up, so that you can open out your chest and shoulders. Take a breath here, and as you exhale, you're going to allow both knees to roll to one side. Now only let them go over as far as you can keep your opposite shoulder blade down on the mat. Inhale as you bring your knees to centre, and exhale, take them over to the other side. Again, make sure the shoulder blade stays anchored in the mat. Inhale to centre, and exhale, take it over. Just moving with the speed of your breath now. Notice which bits of your body feel like they're moving. Kind of where are you feeling? Because we really want to get in tune with our body. So we're wanting here for this to be a twist through the waist. So the rib cage is staying still, the rib cage isn't going anywhere, but then the pelvis is twisting away from it. Yeah. So it's movement through the waist. Rib cage stays anchored and down. And the pelvis is twisting from side to side. When you come back into centre this time, just pause there. Now you're going to need that strap, so grab your strap. And we're going to pop the strap around the foot, and it wants to be at the base of your toes. And then it's really important that when we do the strap stretch, that we're in the right position. Okay? So once we've got our foot in the strap, we want to make sure that the back of our pelvis is anchored into the mat. And then we're going to straighten out the other leg away from us. Now you can see here that there's a bit of a space under my bottom leg, which means that my pelvis isn't in a neutral position. I've got my pelvis tilted back to bring that leg up this high. So I need to find the position at which my pelvis is neutral and the back of that thigh is down onto the mat, which means I have to bring my leg down today about there. And it might be different from one day to another. Okay, so I can make it look impressive. I can bring that leg right up and I can feel like, oh yeah, I'm getting a really good stretch, but can you see all of this? Could drive a double-decker bus under there. So I'm actually not doing anything for my hamstring length there at all. So it needs to come down to find that neutral pelvis position, and only now am I going to be affecting any change in the body. Okay. Again, check in with your ribs, and if your ribs are starting to lift, get something under your head. I'm going to pop a little half dome into my head here. There we go. Which is going to help the back of this other leg come down to the floor, because I do tend to have a bit of a rib thrust mechanism. Okay, so elbows can rest down on the floor, which just gives you a little bit of support, and then this leg that's in the strap is just super heavy. I'm not holding it up there by my muscles of my leg, so if I were to let go of the strap, it would just fall, yeah? So the strap is what's holding the leg in place. And then push through your heel and pull the front of the foot towards you. So again, you will feel that this is lengthening the back of the leg. We're releasing the hamstring and the calf muscle again. Pushing out through the other heel. And then again, try and be as relaxed as you can. I know that you've got some tension through your arms because you're holding the strap. But other than that, try and let everything else be as relaxed as possible. So check your jaw, check your shoulders. Make sure you're not holding your belly in. Make sure that you aren't gripping through your bottom. And just relax there. Take some deep breaths. Good. Okay, and then if it feels okay for you, you're going to bring that leg across your body. So I'm going to take both straps into that hand. And the leg is coming slightly across my body, but I'm not allowing this cheek to lift. So I've not kind of rolled over. I'm keeping this anchored down. So it's just the leg that's coming across, and it's giving me a real good stretch in this outer hip. Just breathing normally. And I'm going to bring that leg back into centre. We're going to switch and do the same on the other side. So switching legs, push the other heel away from you, and again find where this leg needs to be to get the back of this one down onto the floor. So just my pelvis there. pushing out through the heels, pulling the ball of the foot towards you. And take some deep breaths. It might feel completely different from one side to the other, and it can feel really different from one day to the other too. You've always got to honour your body and do what feels right. If anything doesn't feel right for you, then please just don't do it. Give me a shout, let me know something's not right, and we'll look at a modification for you. Letting that leg just be heavy in the strap, we're holding it with the arms. Check your jaw, check your shoulders, check your bottom. Make sure you're not sucking your abdominals in. And then if it feels okay for you, maybe bringing that leg across, but making sure that you aren't lifting your opposite hip. If coming across doesn't feel nice to your hip, just keep it in the centre. You don't need to do the across bit. So in order to be able to mobilise our muscles and our joints and our whole body, we need everything to kind of be at the optimum length that it should be. And that's why we're using the strap stretch to try and find that lost length of our posterior leg muscles. Good, okay, and I'm going to bring that leg back into centre and then take it out of the strap. Don't get rid of your strap because you're going to need it again in a moment, but we're going to bring our knees in towards our chest. Holding onto your knees, just gently rock side to side, giving your low back a little bit of a massage into the mat. Don't let your bottom lift. From here we're going to go into hip circles, so one hand on the top of each knee and circle around. Opening the knees out wide. And then you're going to reverse and go the other way. We're going to use that strap again now for our happy baby. So you're going to bring one leg down and then you're going to pop one foot back into the strap again. And take that leg up towards the ceiling. Okay, so back of your pelvis is anchored on the mat and you're going to bend this knee and pull this leg down towards you. And we're trying to get this shin as vertical as we can and your sole of your foot pointing towards the ceiling so that you could balance something on the sole of your foot. Now let the leg come out to the side a little bit, so it's aiming more towards your shoulder or your armpit rather than trying to come straight onto your chest. So let it come out a little bit. And then you can either hold it with this strap, or if you can reach the outside edge of your foot, you can hold it there. Notice here if your bottom has had to lift off the mat, so has your tailbone lifted, and if it has, get that tailbone back down, which means if you need to go back to holding the strap, that's fine. You are where you are at this particular moment in time and your body will change. So see where you are, and then just give the back of your thigh just a little bit of love, give it a little bit of a massage, a little bit of a rub. We're letting it know that it's okay, we're letting it release, rather than holding on to tension and tightness. So now we're in this happy baby pose, or this half happy baby pose. So we're getting into real deep hip flexion now, so that's a real deep hip bend. Again, it's all about mobilizing and moving our body parts really, really well, especially around the pelvis. Let's try that on the other side. So we're going to release that leg, put the strap onto the other side, and then again we're going to bend that knee down, let it go slightly out to the side so it's going out more to your armpit or your shoulder. Shin as vertical as you can, sole of the foot pointing towards the ceiling. Notice if your tailbone is lifted, try and keep your bottom anchored, and then reaching up to grab the outside of your foot if you can, and it might be different on this side, or holding onto the strap. You've got the choice. Now you can do this with the other leg out long, but that's quite an intense stretch, and you can see that I can't get the back of my leg down onto the floor there just yet. So I prefer to keep a bit of a bend here so that I can really keep my tailbone anchored, and I can really work on this happy baby position here. We'll do more of the leg outstretched later on. Again, just giving the back of that leg a little bit of massage. If you notice anywhere that feels really tight or really tense or tender even, give it a little bit more attention, give it a little bit of a massage. We don't want to be holding tension in our muscles. Our muscles shouldn't hurt when you press on them, and if they do, then it means that something's not quite right, so we're perhaps holding some tension there. Okay, we're going to let that leg go now, so take your strap away. And we're going to go into the cobbler stretch now. So we're going to bring the soles of our feet together and then let our knees roll out to the sides. So this is allowing our hips to open, and it's stretching out the inner thighs as well. So really important for pelvic floor, because quite often our inner thighs are very tight and very weak. So we want to allow them to release a little bit. We want to allow them to get some space, so that then when we come to strengthen them, we've got something to work with. Now, if this position isn't comfortable for your hips, feel free to grab some cushions or something to prop under the top of your hips, top of your thighs, because I want you to be able to relax here. And if you're having to hold yourself here and it's uncomfortable, then you're not going to get the release. So they need to be able to relax down. And then just take some deep breaths here. Check in with your shoulders, check in with your ribs, making sure that you aren't holding your jaw, shoulders, abdominals, and just take some deep breaths. Feel what you feel. And each time you exhale, just see if you can sink that a little bit deeper into the relaxation, into that opening. Okay, so we're going to bring our knees back up towards the ceiling now. We're going to go back to feet and knees hip width apart. We're going to have our hands onto our hip bones, and we're going to go into a knee drop. So you're going to allow one knee to roll out to the side as far as it will go without your pelvis going. And then you're going to bring that leg back into centre. Same on the other side, so the knee rolls out to the side only as far as you can go without your pelvis, and then bring it back into the side. Keep going. Alternating sides. So the pelvis is still, but the leg is moving. Notice how much your pelvis wants to move here, because it can be quite difficult to move the leg without the pelvis, yeah? And those are the areas that we're looking for. We're looking for which bits don't want to move independently. We call it uncoupling. So we're getting rid of bits that want to move together, and we're mobilizing them so that everything can move much more freely. Do one more on each side. And then we're going to take it into our number 4 stretch. So you're going to bring one leg up, and you're going to pop the ankle onto the opposite knee so that your foot is free. So your foot isn't touching, it's just the ankle. And then notice here whether you've hitched your hip up, and think about sending that hip away from you so that you've got length through both sides of your waist. This knee, we want to be pushing it away from us. So opening that knee out. It will again depend on how much tension you have. Because if your knee is kind of here and it's coming more towards your head, it's just showing that we've got a lot of tension there that we're going to work with. But you're trying to open it out as much as you can. Now feel free to stay here if this is comfortable and a good position for you. Otherwise, you can float the standing leg up and then hook your hands behind that thigh to hold here. Now here you're again making sure that your tailbone is anchored. You don't want your bottom lifting out of that mat. So that's our real anchor point, keeping the back of your pelvis anchored. And again, just take some deep breaths here. Check your jaw. Check your shoulders and breathe in normally. If you're struggling to breathe, then you've gone too far and you need to pop your foot back down onto the floor. Remember, this is just where you are today, and it might be different tomorrow. Now you can of course hold this for as long as you wish, but we're going to switch and do the other side right now. Again, the ankle is on the knee, the foot is free, making sure that you haven't hitched that hip up towards you, keeping length through both sides of the waist, keeping your pelvis anchored, and that knee is opening out away from you. Now we don't kind of want just a floppy foot here, we want an active foot, so you're going to push through your heel and pull the toes away from you, so that foot is nice and active too. And again, either stay here or you can float that standing leg up and hold behind that thigh. Again, keeping your tailbone anchored and keep opening that knee out to the side. And just breathe in normally. Again, you could hold this for as long as you need, but we're not going to stay here for too long today. Another breath. And then we're going to allow that leg to come back down onto the floor. Okay. I'm going to roll onto our side now. So coming onto your side. Again, you can have something under your head if you need to, but actually it's a really good stretch for your neck if you can manage to get your head all the way down. The bottom arm is going to come out in front. Top arm is going to come on top of that, and then we've got our knees bent and our knees are in front, my feet are roughly in line with my spine. Okay, so here you want to make sure that your pelvis hasn't collapsed. You want to think about length through the waist, so you're sending your pelvis away from you, which gives you a little bit of activity under this side waist at the other side. So you've not just kind of dumped and collapsed everything into the mat. It's an active position here. We're going to do crocodile, so we're going to inhale, we're going to reach that top arm forwards as far as we can. We're going to reach that arm up towards the ceiling, allow your head to follow your hand if that feels okay for you, and then keep taking that arm back behind you, following it with your eyes, and take it as far as you can, but don't allow your knees to lift off the mat. Once you've gone as far as you can, you're going to take some deep breaths here. And try and find softness and release. So again, it's a real big twist through your waist. When you're ready, we're going to start to slowly come back up, reaching, reaching, reaching all of the time. And allow your arm to come all the way back down. We're going to do two more like that. So when you're ready, reach that arm forwards. Keep reaching the arm, keep reaching the arm. Let your head follow your arm if that feels okay for you. Otherwise, just find a position for your neck that is comfortable. Maybe you want to keep looking at the ceiling, and that's fine too. So notice in this second time, can you get a little bit further? Knees stay down, don't let your knees lift. And that's really important because again, that's our anchor point. And we're twisting away. So this time, the pelvis is staying still and the rib cage is twisting away from the pelvis. So it's the opposite to what we did before when we did our spine twist, when we were lying on our back and the knees were going side to side. When you're ready, start to reach that arm up towards the ceiling again and come all the way back over. One more time on this side, reach the arm forward, reach it up towards the ceiling. And again, think about that twist coming from the waist. Pelvis stays where it is and the rib cage is twisting. So on this third time, you should find that you can get a little further. Maybe your arm comes all the way down to the floor. Maybe it doesn't matter. You are where you are and you're trying to release and relax into that position. And when you're ready, start to slowly reach that arm again back up towards the ceiling. And it's going to come all the way over to close the crocodile's mouth. Now we're going to do the same on the other side. So flip onto your other side. Again, knees are bent, feet roughly in line with spine, and arms are reaching forward. Something under your head if you need it, or getting a good neck stretch if you don't. When you're ready, you're going to reach the arm, reaching forwards, up towards the ceiling. Again, it could be different on this side, so go slow. And go to where you can go to. Don't let your knees lift. Again, think about your pelvis staying still and the twist coming through the waist. And it's the rib cage twisting away from your pelvis. When you're ready, start to slowly bring that arm back up and all the way over. 2 more times on this side. Reach, stretching towards the ceiling, take that arm back. Can you find more softness? Can you let your shoulder relax? When you're ready, we're going to slowly come back up. And we're going to do one more time. Reaching forwards and opening out. Good. And when you're ready, we're going to come all the way back and close in the crocodiles. Good job. Okay, coming up to seated. So the next exercise that I've got for you is another release exercise, and it's called an iliacus release. So it's another way of releasing the hip flexor muscles. So we did the psoas release in stage 1, where we had the bolster and we were allowing the rib cage to relax down towards the floor. So this is just another way of accessing some of those hip flexor muscles, so the muscles that flex at the hip, which is the iliacus muscle. So for this one, we're going to need something to lift our hips up a little bit. Now, if you have a block, you can use a block, you can use a half dough, you can use a bolster or a cushion, and you can play with the height of the lift, and it will give you a different sensation. The higher you go, the more of a release you're going to get, but you want to take it fairly slowly. I'm going to start with a half dome because I have one right here. So I'm going to have the half dome and I'm going to have the flat side up. So lie down on your back. So whether you've got your cushion, your block, your half dome, whatever you've got, you're going to pop it under your pelvis. Okay? And it wants to be under the flat part of your pelvis. And you want to then be able to let your pelvis tilt towards you. So you need to kind of shuffle to get yourself in position. So what we're looking for here is that your pubic bone is higher than your hip bones because your pelvis is tilting towards you. Don't have anything under your head here, unless you really need it, because it might make you feel a little bit crunched up. But if you feel like you really need it, because your head's kind of here somewhere, then just have something small under there just to make you feel comfortable. So if you're on a block, you're tilting your pelvis back. If you're on a cushion, whatever you're on, you want to be tilting that pelvis back towards you. Now, you want to be as relaxed as possible here, and if it feels like there's an awful lot of tension holding your legs in this position because they want to kind of fall out to the sides, then I have a little trick for you, and it really helps with that relaxation. And that's to grab your strap. So I'm going to show you that. Set this back. Here we go. This tilts back. So you can pop your strap around your legs. And you can use the belt or you can just tie it. I'm just going to tie it today. Really lazy. Okay. And then you can just allow your strap to take the tension. It's kind of nice if it's just above your knees, probably better. Yeah, there you go. So you can then allow the strap to hold you here. You still want to be about hip width apart. You want to be in really good alignment. But now I can absolutely just relax here without creating too much tension. And I'm just allowing that pelvis to tilt back towards me and allowing those hip flexors to release and to open. I'm not straining, I'm not having to use my body to get into this position. I'm just using gravity to allow my body to find that. Let me show you what that looks like on a bolster if we're up a little bit higher. It changes, obviously, the shape quite a bit because it's quite a big lift. Okay. So you want to start off with something fairly small and then work your way up. So you can get like a stack of cushions or something like that. So I've just kind of got my bottom on the edge of the bolster, which is going to allow my pelvis then to tilt back. Ribs relax down, pelvis tilting back. And again, you could use your strap here, and then you can just relax. No tension, so check your jaw, check your shoulders, check your ribs. And you're just allowing that pelvis to tilt, to tilt, to tilt, allowing your lower back to come ever closer down to the floor. So watch for the legs just kind of wanting to flop out to the sides, and we don't want them to flop out to the sides, so if you need to, use that strap. We want to try and keep them in their own little channels to keep them in a nice aligned position, but we do want them to be able to relax. So if you're having to strain to hold them there, get a strap. So you could hold this position for as long as you felt was good for you. This is the second of our psoas releases, if you like. So you've got the bolster under the shoulders or the bolster under your hips. It's quite a restful position, I find. Okay, so I'm going to come out of this because there is a good chance that I might fall asleep if I stay here for very much longer, but you can absolutely feel free. When you're coming out of it, by the way, lift your hips up and slide whatever you've got underneath out from under you. Okay, so that is just the first of our mobility videos. Some of those exercises might be really familiar to you, but you just might not be sure of why we do them. So I hope that there's a little bit more explanation there. If you have any questions, put them in the group, let me know, and I will address them when we get together for a chat. Or, you know, just if there's something a bit more urgent that you want answering straight away, just drop me a message, pop it in the group, and as soon as I see it, I will get back to you. You will get best results from doing these mobility exercises often. Now, you don't have to do them all at once. You don't have to sit and go through the whole thing. You could make a note of a couple and do a couple, you know, 2 or 3 each day. But try and do them at least 3 times a week, I would say. 3 to 5 times a week would be ideal. But like I say, you don't have to set aside a whole time. You can just kind of, you know, when you've got 5 minutes, do a few, and then do a few, and do a few. But the more you can incorporate these movements into your day, and the more you can mobilize all of your bits, you will start to notice which bits are moving well, which bits aren't, and then we will know where we need to focus a little bit more. Thank you.